Hello, hello, and welcome to episode 86 of the Great Canadian Hockey Podcast. I'm James Parisi here with my host.
Oh,
Not Christmas, dude. It's not Christmas. I'm not gonna re-record that because I feel like I had some mojo. We're gonna carry that. You were not my host. It's not Christmas, and that could be interpreted other ways too. But my
yeah, I
co-host,
wasn't.
Aiden Sarah, what's new, fella? How the hell are you doing?
I did not think of Christmas. I thought you were. I was just like
Oh, you went the other
insulted
direction
for a
with that?
second. Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
wow, this dude like knows me and he's still dropping this on me. Wow.
I mean, like we're close. Like we're really close. Like you it could be misinterpreted that way.
Right now, I want to segue that into something, and I've kind of just been waiting for you to because I can't think of any way to move this into hockey or anything similar. So I'll just ask you, James, since we've last been on, how have you been? What's been going on?
Honestly, I came into work on Monday and one of my foremen was like, "You look miserable. What is going on?" I looked at him and I'm like, "Miserable? I feel fantastic." And he's like, "Oh, well, tell me more." And I looked at him and I just said, I think I may have had the best 4 days of my year in the past, in the past 4 days, Friday to Monday. Fantastic. So anyone who knows me well knows I'm a terrible sleeper, just the worst. Waking up at all hours, takes forever to fall asleep, mind racing. Aiden, I had three top-notch 8 hour start to finish sleeps this weekend where I didn't have to do anything the second I woke up.
That can carry you a long way.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Um, got to have lunch at Sushiville, my favorite sushi spot on the Lower Mainland on Commercial Drive, with one of my best friends from Ontario. It was his last little chunk of time here. And me and my roommate Caleb played 18 holes of pitch and putt golf with not a single person behind us. No rush whatsoever. Just smacking balls. Doesn't matter how good you play, doesn't matter how bad you play. We brought a few beers in our little birdie bucket. Nice little lunch kit we had there. Mick Ultras, perfect for the golf course. Not an ad, but quite enjoyable. Quite enjoyable. I don't mind pumping their tires right now. Um, and anyone who knows me also knows I am like a tremendously overblown level of nerd. Like it's kind of hiding in there somewhere. Like I don't know. It doesn't really show on my Instagram or on my social media or when we're just talking hockey forever. Maybe it does. I don't know. It's a podcast for hockey nerds made by hockey nerds. But dude, a Pokemon card set came out that looks exactly like the one from when I was 6 years old in 2004, walking into EB Games with all my birthday money. And I think I've opened 65 packs in the past 2 days. And to top it off, I had an amazing walk, breakfast, hangout with my girlfriend. She brought me a couple pet rocks. Not pet rocks. Maybe they are pet rocks. They're next to my laptop right now. This one's sick. Only Aiden can see it, but very cool. It almost looks like a coin, but it's not. Um, and went for a couple other little snack runs and stuff like that. I found a case of my favorite sugar-free pop. That's Dr. Pepper Black Cherry. Very, very hard to find. And I paid $20 for it, which is insanity, but worth it. And I cooked a steak. It felt so good. I didn't go buy it. I cooked it myself. Honestly, dude, best week. Best week.
How do you
And
like your steak, James?
how do I like my steak? Mooing.
Yeah, good. Okay, how about Hallie though? Do you have to like
Oh,
actually cook it for her?
I think she would do a medium rare. I want like rare verging on blue. I want you to like hard sear the outsides, and I want like maybe just the small, like a millimeter or two of brown on the top and bottom.
I think I'm right in the middle of you two then.
Okay, yeah. So like a rare.
Yeah, and I order rare in restaurants more because I feel like every time I've ordered medium rare in a restaurant, it comes out medium, and that is not the direction I'd want them to go.
But Aiden, to summarize how I've been feeling lately, I was super down in the dumps for like weeks, just like unexplainably down for no apparent reason. And it all turned around when I went to the local little nursery pop-up and I bought a plant. I just bought a plant, watered it, and put it on my deck. Oh, and to top it all off, one of my best friends who lives in Nanaimo, him and Caleb surprised me. Caleb tells me that he's ordering me food, and then so I buzz it up, and then Buddy just comes bursting in the door, and he's like, "How the hell are you doing, fella?" So yeah, I mean, life's pretty good.
The
Life's pretty.
door of James's apartment also doesn't close properly, so he can just
Mm-mm.
walk in, and it's kind of like the apartment from Friends where they were all re unrealistically just barging into each other's apartments. Like that is an
Hmm.
option.
But yeah, dude, I've been like Richie Rich in a toy store with the amount of Pokemon card packs I've been opening. It's disgusting. Like it is an awesome and disgusting hobby. I am way too entranced with it. Oh, and I went to a card show. I picked up a sick Jonathan Drouin, Nathan McKinnon dual auto, dual rookie auto, number to 25. Very cool. I don't know if it were to gain some interest, if our listeners were into it, I would throw the odd like hockey card pickup on our podcast Instagram, make a little story of it, let people see what I'm dealing with, because I find some cool stuff.
That's gotta be an Instagram story post too.
Okay.
If the podcast was video, you could just bring them, but for now, post
For
the
now.
photos.
For now. Shall we get into some hockey? Should we talk about what's going on with this terribly somewhat predictable and way too dominant conference finals?
I thought Dallas was going to beat Edmonton, so I'll refute the predictability of that series. Unfortunately, Florida Carolina is currently playing out as a Florida Carolina series has and would in this situation. Florida really just look so strong, James. Like up and down, they are the better team. I'm giving Carolina a tremendous amount of credit for how they fought in both game four and the first period of game five, but the wheels have kind of fallen off this Hurricanes team here in the second period of Game Five, which is the time we're recording it right now. Is 3-2 Florida at the just at the end of the second.
Yeah, Aiden, I mean, some people I know are calling this Florida team possibly the best playoff team they've seen in our lifetimes. And I have no reason to argue otherwise. I mean, yeah, sure, tons of teams come to mind. There are a lot of incredible teams, but you look at the way they're structured and how dominant they've been against teams that walk all over everyone else. Carolina made other teams look like garbage for a lot of the regular season, for parts of playoffs, they were kind of gross. And I was annoyed by it because I didn't want to see them in the conference finals for this exact reason. Because they cannot handle the Florida Panthers. And you know what? It's not a bad thing to not be able to handle the Florida Panthers. I would love for someone to point out three teams that could last 7 games in a series with them. Toronto did it. They went to 7 games. Just saying. But like, I mean, doesn't Toronto, Florida feel like more of a conference final than Florida, Carolina does? Am I crazy for saying that?
I don't think you're crazy for saying that. What I will say is that is unfortunately a byproduct of this divisional playoff system we have, that isn't the case, right? Because you can argue for sure that if the three strongest teams in the conference are all in the Atlantic Division, then there's no reason for two Atlantic Division teams not to be in the conference final. That's pretty asinine to me. But Gary likes it. So here we are.
And just before we move on and talk a little bit more in depth about the series, I just want to ask our listeners, for any of you that are our regulars and maybe just listen to us in this format, we would love for you to check out the Instagram, check out some reels that Aiden puts together. They're fantastically done. They've gotten a little more traction lately. Check out the YouTube format of it as well. Aiden does uploads there that you could just throw on your TV if that's the way you prefer to listen. And, if you want to give us some feedback, we would love it in any way, shape, or form. I usually throw that at the end, but I mean, we're closer to the top, so maybe I wouldn't lose any stragglers this way. But yeah, we love the support and we appreciate you guys checking it out in other ways, shapes, and forms. So now going a little more in depth on this series. Aiden, I feel like one of the reasons that I mean, we talked about it a little bit last week, but one of the reasons we're seeing this Carolina team get walked all over is the inability to make adjustments. You see people all the time rave about the kind of game they play and how they can just be a buzzsaw that goes through you at the same pace. It's steady, steady, steady. Well, what happens when that steady pace is broken up? We're seeing it. We're seeing a powerhouse team be blown up in probably 5 games. Aiden, is this the kind of thing that's a personnel issue, or do they need to look at other ways of playing hockey?
I think you nailed it on the head when you talked about the inability to adapt. Like, that's the problem here because Florida basically just plays a better version of Carolina Hurricanes hockey in almost every conceivable way. I thought the best that Carolina's looked in the series is still when they've managed to beat Florida at playing their own game. And when you have a series against a Washington Capitals team that just have success in a very different way, Carolina matches up so much better against them. But when your strategy is your opponent's strategy and your opponent is better at it than you are, then you got to find something else. And so it's hard for me to sit here and say Carolina needs some drastic changes. There needs to be a coaching change. There needs to be any number of things because realistically, I do think this team has the ability to get out of the Eastern Conference every single year, but they need three opponents who they match up nicely against because they have a Florida Panthers team in front of them right now that they just have nothing against. And a huge part of the reason why is, like I said, it's just a better version of them that they're having to face.
I totally agree. And I mean, you're seeing a couple young guys break in on this roster, really. Like Alexander Nikishin, he's going to be a huge part of this team moving forward. Logan Stankoven, huge part of the team already, and looks like he will be in the near future as well. Taylor Hall has become a big role player on this team. I mean, not young whatsoever, but Pyotr Kochetkov, who I mean, I don't really think he's the solution. They threw him in for a game. Um, I'd like to go there. How do you
Goaltending
feel about
Carolina.
that? Yeah, how do you feel about them taking the net away from Freddie and going to Kochetkov, who honestly has struggled whenever we've really looked at him in playoffs this year?
I have to say, man, that goaltending is a position like no other in that I have seen goalies be unworldly amazing and horrible just based on the conditions in which they play.
Hmm.
And Frederick Anderson is so fragile. And unfortunately, that's just the fact of the matter is his body, for as long as I can remember, going back ages, has just not been able to handle a lot of hockey. And we don't know if that dressing room had a conversation where Freddie said, I'm at the end of my rope, guys. Like this is going to be a problem eventually. And I don't hate the idea of throwing in another goaltender in a game that you view as less impactful. Like, just because we switch from the regular season to the playoffs does not mean that goaltenders' jobs get any easier. Like, the goalies are still playing every other game, game in, game out for weeks and now months on end. I'm going to say I don't mind it because of who it is. Like I don't like the idea of load management at any point. But goaltending it's kind of like being a pitcher in baseball. You just got to have other considerations there.
I get that. I definitely get that. I mean, moving forward, do you feel like there's a piece that Carolina is definitely missing personnel wise? I mean, we've talked about every other way that they could improve or change. I mean, I don't think Rob Brindamore is going anywhere. I think he's too beloved in that city. I think ownership loves him. I think management loves him. I think players want to go to war for him. But what can they change on the roster? Where's the hole? What do we need to fix?
I still think it's tweaks, honestly, and included in those tweaks is a move like they made for Mikko Rantanen. I'm definitely in no way.
That's not a tweak. That's
Oh,
a that's a monumental change.
yeah, and I'm more in the sense of adding a guy to this top six that can be impactful to me is a significantly better proposition than trying to swap out pieces, right? Like we talk about Vancouver, and I think Vancouver is far enough away from anything that the only thing we can pitch is to overhaul things. Carolina, like at the end of the day, I know they look feeble in this situation, but they're still, to me, very, very close. And I think especially like they just need a way that their top six, top nine can be structured so that they don't need to rely on this style of play being what carries them to victory every time.
Totally understandable, totally fair. I mean, lots to look forward to in free agency. There are a lot of impact players that I would love to see in a Carolina Hurricanes sweater. But time to move on. Aiden, we're going to take it to the Western Conference right now. Edmonton is up 3-1 on this series against the Dallas Stars. And you know what? It feels worse than just any other 3-1 series lead, which is bad enough. I mean, the Oilers have, for the most part, wholesale dominated this series. Aside from the third period in game one, where Dallas completely took over and looked like the team they had been through the first two rounds, the Oilers have wiped the floor with them. Jason Robertson is not looking. I mean, I don't want to give him more than 12 minutes a game right now.
How many
Wyatt
times
Johnson and his plus minus are extremely concerning. I can get over a stat like that in the regular season, but in playoffs, I really can't. I can't at all.
I think a guy like Jason Robertson, we do have to start asking ourselves how, like, the numbers tell you that it's not like he's a problem in the playoffs, but James, doesn't this feel like just another example of this guy who looks like a world beater in the regular season, just not being an impactful enough piece in the playoffs? Nowhere near.
Well, Aiden, I mean, there was one regular season that he's absolutely phenomenal. And keep in mind, we're talking about a guy who's turning 26 in July. It is far from too late for this guy to change at all. But I mean, there was that one insane season for him. Other than that, like, is he really that insane? Yes, great player. He had 41 goals a couple years ago. He had 35 goals this season. He had 46 goals a couple years ago and over 100 points. I mean, back-to-back 80-point seasons he's coming off of right now. Like, this is a guy who's over a point per game in his career. But I just feel like he's one of those guys who misses a gear in playoffs. When it matters most, not everyone can do it. And a lot of guys can change. And I can't stress this enough. I say it all the time. I'm saying all of this from a chair in my bedroom in my apartment. I couldn't do 10% of what these guys are doing. But Aiden, if Jason Robertson isn't scoring and he's not helping out on the power play, what are you getting from him?
And that's where I think we circle back to your 12 minutes a night thing. Because realistically, his impact, again, with absent of those things he does so well, his impact in other facets is not good enough, period.
You know, Aiden, I said this a few episodes back, when Colorado and Dallas were still in the first round, so a handful of episodes back. Um, the commentators and everyone reporting on the series kept saying Dallas without their best player, Jason Robertson. I don't even have him as their second best player. I think he's their fourth best player.
But
I
I'd
think you
hero
have
an
a Mikko
argument.
Rantanen. I think you have a Miro Heiskanen. I think you have a Jake Ottinger. And then you might even have a Wyatt Johnston. And then you have Robertson.
Again, this is harsh. I like this player a lot. I'd hear out Rupe Hintz and Thomas Harley arguments too. Like
I'd hear
it's
them out, but I don't believe that yet.
no, probably me neither. Robertson needs to find another gear. And I think for Dallas, as they, again, it's 3-1, right? It's not over. But if this series ends the way it seems to be trending, Robertson, I think, needs to be part of Dallas's consideration when they do in the end take a step back and say, okay, what didn't work and what do we have to change?
Totally, and I mean, you've seen this team make long-term commitments to a lot of players, Robertson being one of them, but he let's see what he's got going on here. He's in the wait, next year's the final year of his deal. He's an RFA when it ends, but I did not know that. I didn't know that at all. What does a Jason Robertson make? Because he's eligible for extension July 1st. What is that worth?
Yeah, and he's only at 775 right now. That was a number that looked like an absolute bargain. It still does. I think you got to be if you're signing him, you're not gonna sign him for less than what, a 9.5
He's
on the
getting
low
10.
end.
He's getting 10.
He's getting 10. Yeah, like, and so at that point, if you're Dallas, you're entering a you're entering an off season where maybe it's decision time with him. Again, you're right. He's 26 years
It feels
old.
crazy to say, but if you really take a step back and look at everything, it's not that crazy to say. I mean, this is a team that three straight conference finals, right? You kind of need to nut up or shut up. Dallas and Carolina are doing the same thing. You go to the conference finals all the time. San Jose used to do this. Not every team's going to make it, but I mean, not every core group can make it. That's the thing. A big, big change. They already brought in Mikko Rantanen. They already have a ton of guys vying for ice time. I don't know what you get for a Jason Robertson. I don't know what that does to that group, but I think it's something to consider for sure. I feel like we're kind of on to something. It feels crazy that that's something we're on to, but yeah. What are the Stars doing wrong? Because my friends and I who watched, I want to say game three. Um, it feels like they've lost that fight they had in the first two rounds. In the first two rounds, they walked into every game like they were underdogs with desperation, and I haven't seen any of that.
Yeah, it's felt very complacent since game one, and I think the score line, like it's 13-2 Edmonton in the last three games. So
That's gross.
yeah, and the Oilers again, nothing has changed. Like they have not. Ekholm's still not back from injury. It's still Skinner, and yet Dallas cannot score on this abysmal Oilers penalty kill. And this Edmonton defense and goaltending, James, like I don't know how much you've watched specifically the Oilers in their own zone. It is always chaotic. Like Stuart Skinner never looks comfortable in the net. And so it honestly just doesn't compute in my brain even how I'm watching that every game and then watching Dallas and their excess of offensive talent not be able to score on him. And at the end of the day, it seems so simple to say just finish it off, but that's what it is. At the end of the day, Dallas and Edmonton are getting somewhat similar numbers of chances, but the Oilers are just getting that finish that Dallas isn't. And that's unfortunately, it sounds kind of like a it sounds like not a very insightful thing to say, but that's really what the difference is right now.
Aiden, I think we have to take it away from Dallas and we have to start giving flowers to the teams that are ahead. We didn't hype up the Florida Panthers enough, but you know what? We've spent way too long hyping them up anyway. It's been a couple years of amazing from them. Pretty much as long as this podcast has been a thing. The Florida Panthers have been doing cool stuff. But Aiden, the Edmonton Oilers, the usual story is you get your McDavid, you get your Bouchard, you get your Draisaitl. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins has been the best player in this Western Conference final. You know, he had that 100-point season a couple years ago, and everyone thought, man, full potential Nuge. This is damn cool. And I was one of them. I still am one of them. A huge fan of the guy, always have been. I mean, he's a heart and soul guy. He's a proud BC kid, and he plays really, really strong hockey. If you are someone who really appreciates the finer points of the game, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is that guy. Um, what has he been able to do to take over this series? Because it feels like he's just a bat out of hell.
Yeah, he's kind of getting lost in the background until it's suddenly time to strike, and then Dallas has a huge problem with him. Like he's not there until it's like, oh, there he is, and he just got a very clever primary assist, and now you're down by 3 goals. Um, yeah, pretty much since and I mean, you could say this about every Edmonton Oiler. Those first 2 games against LA, he was horrible. He's been like lights out excellent every single game he's played since then. He had back-to-back games, not 2 and 3, sorry, 4 and 5 against Vegas, where he didn't get a point in either of those games, but those are the only two since those first 2 games against LA that he hasn't. And you were bang on the money that he's been so good in this series. And again, a huge part of it, I always bring this up, like Dallas has their hands full with McDavid and Draisaitl to an unreal extent. And I think watching Leon Draisaitl deep into the playoffs in the last 5 years has given me like an insight into really the fact that he is and has been a top 3 player in the NHL this whole time. Like he is it's almost like he's a force of nature in a way that not a lot of players are. And you kind of see it in Mikko Rantanen too. We describe Rantanen like that a little bit. Um, but again, it's just the fact that Nugent Hopkins can approach this Dallas Stars team who are giving everything they can to stop McDavid and Draisaitl and just find this open spots where he can excel, right? It's hockey IQ to an extreme extent. I love smart hockey players. They're my favorite to watch and my favorite to analyze. And the intelligence of Ryan Nugent Hopkins has been very, very obvious because it's his ability to strike in the spaces that Dallas's focus on the superstars leave open for him.
Love it. I completely agree with every single thing you just said. Aiden, I mean, I feel like it's all but confirmed who we're going to see in the finals again. It's going to be a repeat of last year. Um, Everyone keeps asking me, are the Oilers going to be able to beat the Panthers this year? I think, or they'll tell me the Oilers are going to be able to beat the Panthers this year. I'm honestly ready to make my prediction. I think by the time everyone's done listening to this episode, the finals are going to be set. They're going to be confirmed. I don't really think we have to worry about who's playing in them. It's already Florida Edmonton. It's always been Florida Edmonton. It was and will forever be the Panthers versus the Oilers. Now, we're seeing a little bit of health stuff come up. I believe we mentioned it early on. Might not have, but Zach Hyman done for the remainder of the year, as reported so far, with a apparent wrist injury. The Panthers have dealt with a little bit of their own. Reinhart hopping in and out of the lineup. Nico Mikkola hopping in and out of the lineup. Ito Luosterainen left this game against the Carolina Hurricanes with injury. Has yet to come back, to my knowledge. This happens this time of year. When you go into the finals, you are almost, without a doubt, going to be without one of your best players. When Colorado and Tampa played, Tampa didn't have Braden Point. Could you imagine Tampa winning anything without Braden Point? I can't. Samuel Girard for the Avalanche had a broken sternum. He couldn't play. The dude could barely move. I mean, we say that, and then he was doing drunk front flips during the parade, but I digress. We're probably going to see another guy to go out, especially by game 2 of the finals. But Aiden, what's different this year? And follow that up with what is your prediction? Because I've got Panthers in 6.
I was gonna say that as well.
Hmm.
What's different this year, unfortunately, to me, looks like a Florida Panthers team who don't look nearly as tested as they did last year. They look like and I know they went to 7 with Toronto. Like, I know that they were so close to having so many problems. But when this team is rolling, like, I don't see us stopping them. The Edmonton Oilers, I think you can outscore that team. And I think Florida will. Um, what's different, unfortunately for Edmonton, Zach Hyman was a huge part of that series. He ended last year's playoff with 16 goals in 25 games. And you look at his numbers from this year, and they will trick you into thinking he is a shell of what he was last year. That's not true. That's fake. Zach Hyman is not playing as well as he did last season. He's still in these playoffs been a very effective like buzzsaw for this team. He's been everywhere. He's been doing everything they need him to do. He's not scoring at the pace that he did last season, where he had 54 in the regular season, and then ended up with 16 in the playoffs for what 70 goals in 105 games. Like that's crazy stuff. He's not there, but this is a player that was very effective every single game for them. And Edmonton have a whole group of like bottom six forwards who can play top six roles in a pinch. So you're gonna see a guy slot in there that might have some success mesh with.
Is Jeff Skinner gonna get back in the lineup?
I wouldn't be shocked at all if we
Well, if they win the cup and he doesn't play again, is it true that he won't have his name on the cup?
we'd have to do some math, I think. It's a certain number of both regular season and playoff games you have to hit.
I'm pretty sure if he doesn't play in the finals, he's screwed
He's only played one game, right?
in round one.
Yeah. See, I think it's I thought it was two, but I know I've been sure about this and been wrong.
Oh, okay, never mind. He would get it. You have to, according to Google AI overview, which I've seen some crazy, horrendous stuff from. To get your name engraved on the Stanley Cup, you need to have played in at least 41 regular season games with the championship team or participated in at least one game of the Stanley Cup Finals series. But additionally, the team can petition the commissioner for an exemption or exception. Uh, I remember, I remember a couple exceptions. I don't remember what they were though. But you have a maximum of 55 names on the trophy, including coaching staff and everyone else involved. Uh, yeah, I don't know. It feels weird that a guy would get his name on the cup even if he doesn't play a game in the finals. I don't know how I feel about that. I want to see him play a game. I want to see the guy go out there and score a goal, a game winner or something. Put him in the lineup. He's had his time in the press box. You go give a pet, like a dog or something, a timeout. Like they're not gonna think about it for that long. It's been almost 2 months, dude. It's been like a month and a half. Get Jeff Skinner back in there. He might be a dog by now. But yeah, I mean, Aiden, I don't think this is going to be that different from last year's Cup Finals. I think we're going to see a couple big Oilers comebacks, but I think the Panthers will ultimately have the dagger. I think they win the battle depth-wise everywhere on the ice, goaltending, defense, up front. I like how they're structured better. I like how they play better, but I should also note I've picked against the Oilers every single series this playoffs. And how do I look right now? Stupid. Just stupid. I look like I have my head in the sand, and I only come up to tell you that I'm not in the sand.
I think I have at least a yearly rant about how the only way you win is with the core of your team being made up of players you got at the top of the draft. And I'm not gonna get into it yet because what I'm gonna do is after Edmonton either wins the Stanley Cup or loses in the final, I'm gonna read you a list of names that were on this team that weren't top three picks, and you can tell me how close that group is to a Stanley Cup. Because I've been in a lot of conversations with Canucks fans this summer where I'm saying, no, it's over. This group is over, period. Your maximum value on all these players is now, which means move all these players now. um, and the pushback is that that's not the only way to do it. And here we are.
I get that. I definitely get that. I mean, we've done this with drafts, we've done this with trade deadlines, we've done this with playoffs. I would like you to give me a three-item wish list for the Stanley Cup final.
Number one, I want Connor McDavid to win in the same way that after a certain point, I was just like, come, like I wanted Ovechkin to get his ring. it gets sad when you're at the end of the career and you realize Jerome McGinley's not going to have another crack. The Sedins aren't going to have another crack, right? All those names, it just passes you by, and that's a heart wrencher when you've done everything in your career to earn it. I think McDavid's more than done that. I think his year as a winner, it started last year in the playoffs. He was the best player in those playoffs. It takes something special to win the Conn Smythe as a losing finalist, and it was even more when he won the Four Nations. And my hope is that this is the next thing, and it's an Olympic gold next year as well. And we have just seen Connor McDavid in 2.5 years erase every question mark about his greatness or his legacy. That's number one. Number two, I absolutely love. I would. I'm not gonna say specifically Jeff Skinner because like you just brought him up, but one of these random guys like a Yona Gadjevich or for Florida or like a
By the way, I
Vasily
checked. It's Jonah.
Jonah Gadjevich, okay. Vasily Podkolzin, I know I just named two former Canucks, but those kind of random players, I want to see a huge goal scored by a name that
Mm.
like we only end up remembering this guy for that goal. Like I think those are so cool. I also love it when they're random players and then it's like an Adam Henrique thing where you remember him for that one goal for a long time, but then he's just a stud too, where
Yeah.
it's an early like Nikishin or something in this series scores a big goal and then has a great career, and you're like, no, but I remember that. I remember that first one. I'm struggling with the number three, so I'm gonna ask you and try and think of it while you give me your top three wish list here for Stanley Cup final.
I want this Cup Finals to give us a Hockey Guy of the Year nominee. This has been a playoffs where I haven't seen as many guys as usual covered in blood from chin to hairline. I want to see it. I want to see a guy put his body on the line and come out looking like a warrior. I wouldn't do that. I'm a big baby, but I want to see that from one of these guys out there. Gladiators on ice, man. I You're gonna see some guys do some crazy stuff in the Cup Finals. Everything's on the line. This is what you play your whole life for. Number two. Um, there's always an incredible moment in the post-game interviews after the cup is won, whether it's a sweep, whether it's game five, whether everybody marches straight to game seven and lays it all on the line. And yes, that is a lay it on the line reference. Yeah, Aiden, I mean, last year, Paul Maurice in his post-game pressers, we loved everything we heard from the guy. Colorado's year, the stuff Gabe Landeskog was saying, you loved seeing it. You go back a couple years ago. Um, it doesn't matter who you're hearing it from, even if it's the crazy Nikita Kucherov and his Bud Lights without his shirt on. Like you love seeing these after the show shows. I would love one of those. In fact, I'm gonna go really specific and I'm gonna say I want another Alex Ovechkin friends we did it, go get a beer with your best friends and celebrate moment.
Dude, that
Oh,
Kucherov presser,
I want a rallying cry.
that
I want whoever
Kucherov
wins the
presser
cup to tell us all to party.
that Kucherov presser lives in my head. Like
Yep.
it's, I quote it at least I think once every couple weeks. I'll drop a line from that press conference on somebody, and they have no idea what I'm talking about.
What's your favorite one to quote? No
It
accent, because you will flub that.
he's talking about I think the criticism or the lack of praise that Andrei Vasilevsky got, and the way he says, I'm not gonna say the word, the way he says number one BS on
Oh,
in the
yeah.
interview with his
Yeah.
accent and how drunk he is. That's my favorite one.
Yeah. 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 That one's pretty sick. Yeah. And he's like really hard slurring when he says Wazzy because his V's are W's. It's just the way it is. Yeah. I love that. Very, very good callback. Um, Number three, This sounds so bad to say, but it's just so cool. I want to see a guy get body bagged, injured badly, and come back and play the whole time.
Dude, it was
Just,
not.
just, just as a, just as like a go roll around the field because your sport sucks nod to the NBA and all of their players who sprain like a quarter of a finger and then don't play for 3 months and then need load management the whole next season because they sprained to the corner of their pinky.
It's electric when that happens. It's part of why we love hockey when that happens. We never want the NHL to treat a player the way Paul Correa was treated because that was not good.
Totally. Yeah.
That's what I will establish too.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I do love the off the floor on the board moment. As dark and messed up as it is looking back, but that's like my favorite moment in playoff history. But I digress. Moving on. Let's take it out of here. Let's benchmark this. We've had a little bit of a coaching carousel, management carousel. Aiden, I'm going to start things off in Chicago. The Chicago Blackhawks have found their next head coach. That is Jeff Blashill, former head coach of the Detroit Red Wings. He was the successor to Mike Babcock. Um, he's already come out and said he has a lot of faith in Bedard taking it to another level. Aiden, what have you seen from Jeff Blashill over your years of watching him coach the Red Wings? And what do you think he can do with this young Hawks team and whatever wily vets they're bringing us around them?
They're really close at this point. Like I think
You
this
think
is
they're
the
close?
no, I think this is the year that you're gonna see them kind of like Calgary did this year, I think. Like Calgary took a big step forward this year with a lot of the way Dustin Wolf took a step forward, Coronado, Zari. Not as high profile guys as Chicago has, but um I could see them having a year like Calgary did this year where they're flirting with a playoff spot and whether they end up just getting in or missing out. That's gonna largely be up to how the team gets constructed around Blashill. They won sorry they Blashill won the Calder Cup with Grand Rapids in 2013. He was really good the whole time he was in Detroit's AHL system. Um and to the point where the Red Wings basically groomed him to be Babcock's replacement for like 3 years before he was their head coach. And since then it just hasn't worked in Detroit. And you can point to any number of reasons, you can point to any number of things that might have caused that. But he took over Detroit in a very similar spot that he took over, that he's now taking over Chicago, right, James? And so now this is his second kick at the young team who needs to take a step forward can. And I think Chicago's farther ahead than Detroit was. Like Detroit was at the right at the end of their like 25 years in a row in the playoffs. There was a lot of work to be done. Chicago's ahead of that right now. Um, I'm curious, if not confident in him, because there's a lot of guys on that Blackhawks team, Bedard included, that man, if you get the best out of them, they are going to be absolute superstars. But it's about getting the best out of them.
Definitely, man. I think it's a really interesting team moving forward, and I can't wait to see what they end up doing. I mean, I kind of checked out on them after about halfway through the season. I didn't really feel like things were moving forward. I feel like a lot of guys took steps back, and that really worried me. I love what I saw from Nazar at the end of the season. I really hope that Blashill utilizes him a lot. But let's move on. Let's take it to Boston. The Bruins are reportedly finalizing their head coach search. Frontline candidates are Mitch Love, assistant coach of the Washington Capitals, and Marco Sturm, a former Bruin. Aiden, what can you tell us about this search, and what do you think is next for the Bruins?
Listen, I'm always a fan of getting the first time head coaches in the door, right? Like you hear the term boys club thrown around a lot to the point where it's almost lost like the actual meaning of it. The boys club of the NHL is like how everyone knows each other, and so when coaches and GMs get fired, they kind of just move around to open spots, and it really does not whatsoever allow openings for new coaches to rise through the ranks. That's why, like, David Carl. Like, when do you ever hear about a coach prospect the way you've heard about David Carl? It just doesn't happen because everything is so concentrated inside of the bubble. Um, so these are two players that credit where credit is due. I'm so happy because they're from outside of that bubble. And it's good that they're getting in there. Like, let's start with Mitch Love. Mitch Love has absolutely worked his way up from the bottom. Like, he was an Everett Silvertip as a player and then spent 8 years with Everett as their coach. He started as the strength and conditioning coach, ended up being an assistant coach before Saskatoon hired him as the full-time coach, and he's just continued to rise from there. He's been on the bench for multiple World Junior gold medal winning Canadian teams. I'm a fan of the guy, especially because he's been the right hand man to Spencer Carberry. I talk a lot about how well coached the Washington Capitals are. He was a grinder when he was a player. Going to be the coach of Boston, it's the kind of city, it's the kind of team, the kind of culture that relies a lot on your hardworking, gritty drive and that effort. On the other side of things, Marco Sturm most recently was the head coach of I think the AHL team for the Los Angeles Kings, the Ontario Reign. Very, very interesting candidate as well. He would be only the fourth European head coach in NHL history. Um, Not as significant a a resume as Love, but he was a former Bruin. The organization knows him. The organization likes him a lot.
Just an update on this Carolina Hurricanes game. Aiden Seth Jarvis is tied it in the third period, assisted by Ghost and Andrei Svechnikov. I mean, did we jinx it? Are they going to come back? Are we
I've
stupid?
I've got it on. You'll know.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Okay, moving on. Another big hiring for me. In fact, I think this was one of the most appealing and interesting jobs in the NHL right now. Matthew Darche has signed on as the next general manager of the New York Islanders, who have the first overall pick coming up. They have a handful of interesting young players, prospects, and older veteran players that, I mean, are either going to break in, break out, or it's time to find a different home. I think the Islanders are going to have a lot of movement over the next couple of years. And much like Mike Greer has had with the San Jose Sharks, where it's like, okay, I can trade this guy, I can trade this guy, I can sign this guy, let's take the risk on that guy. I think Matthew Darche is going to have a big leash. He was serving as assistant GM with the Tampa Bay Lightning for quite a bit. Rumor is he was responsible for quite a few things, whether that be in the ballpark of contract negotiations, in suggestions for pro scouting. He's been a massive role player for that organization. So I'm curious to see how the Islanders move forward. I mean, they're a team where the NHL is kind of cool when the Islanders are good. I'm not gonna lie. Like, how fun was it when like Anthony Beauvillier is scoring that goal and like everyone on Long Island is losing their minds? Like, that's not the angry New Yorkers. That's like the salt of the earth restaurant owning New Yorkers, you know? Like, I don't even know if you really call them New Yorkers. They're Long Islanders. But I mean, yeah, I think they're going to be one of the more interesting teams to watch this year. And I think they could be one, as Aiden and I have talked about before, one of the only teams in recent memory who may even consider trading the first overall pick. Moving on. Let's take one more little stab at up-to-date news. Daniil Boot and Dmitry Simashev, two fairly high draft picks from when the team was over in Arizona. They've gotten their entry-level contracts from the Utah Mammoth. Have we talked about that? That they're the Mammoth? We haven't talked
Oh,
about that.
no, that's another thing. I like it. Do you like it?
I love it.
Yeah.
I wanted Utah Outlaws. I loved that.
I again, I don't know what the logo, and the jerseys would have looked like specifically with Outlaws. I really like the mammoth. I like the logo. Obviously, the color scheme was already popular. They weren't really gonna mess with that too much. But no, I think it's cool. I wasn't a big Golden Knights fan when it came out, but I put this in a tier with Seattle. I thought the Kraken was cool. I thought the jersey was cool, the color scheme, everything was nice. So good for Utah. Obviously, Ryan Smith kind of decided he wanted an NHL team, and then seemingly 3 weeks later got one. It's all had to come together pretty quickly in Utah, but they've executed quite nicely. And Carter Verhaeghe has just made it 4-3 Florida with 7:39 to go in the third.
My God. Of course it's him. Of course it is. If that stands as the game winner, that adds to his ridiculous playoff game winning goal total. Like one of the more gross stats. Highly recommend you check that out. Aiden, one more thing, very unfortunate. Adam Lowry, the guy was a total warrior this year. Fantastic player to watch through their couple rounds of playoffs. The guy just pours heart and soul into the ice and does everything for his teammates. Yeah, the Jets captain is missing 5 to 6 months after a hip surgery. With a guy that size, you don't love seeing hip surgery. I really hate to say that, but I hope he's okay. I hope this won't set his career back too far, but yeah, the Jets will likely be without him to start the season next year. Who knows? Maybe he gets back a little faster. I wish him a speedy recovery.
Yeah, agreed. Quickly, we kind of glazed over Boot and Simishev because we realized we needed to talk Mammoth. Um, Two players that they took in the first round of the 2023 draft. The second was Boot, 12th overall. He was a really interesting pick to me. That was a year when they were Arizona that every single player I think was like 6'1", 6'2", and above. Simishev 6'5", Boot is 6'6". So these are two massive players that are coming into this Utah team. I'm a huge, huge Simishev fan because it is not easy to be that big and skate that well. It's why I'm all over Caden Lindstrom. Like, it is a very difficult skill to move like Cale Makar or Quinn Hughes and be the size of an Eric Lindros. It doesn't happen. So when you see somebody in any position be able to execute that, it is massively impressive. And that's why I think Simishev has a really high ceiling. He's smart, he passes the puck well. Daniel Boot is a complete wild card for me, but he had a really, really promising last 2 years. Like, he was drafted in 22, 23. We hadn't seen too much of him in the KHL, but with Lokomotiv Yaroslavl, he's had 2 really solid years in a row. So hopefully Utah's getting a player that I wouldn't be shocked if one or both of these players end up AHL bound off the hop, but NHLers eventually and sooner than later, I think.
Which one do you see starting the season?
Simishev for sure.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Interesting.
especially because to me that Utah defense is the thing they kind of need to figure out. And I'm not saying that like, oh, they're missing Dmitry Simishev necessarily.
Okay. They don't need to figure it out. They just need to be healthy. John Marino, Mikhail Sergachev, Sean Dursey. That's a very good top three.
When I say figure out, I also mean figure out how they're going to work because yeah, that's a really good top three. You know what the other thing is though, James? I wouldn't play any of those guys together, and I wouldn't play Simishev with any of them
Why
either.
wouldn't you play John Marino with any of them? He's fantastic defensively.
To me, it's about well, I guess no, you have to play Marino and Sergachev together. I was still thinking of a very
Marino's a
injured Utah.
stud.
Yeah, dude, I'm thinking of this Utah team as depleted and injured as they were last year because I did watch a lot of this team and they had a lot of problems, but I think I'm forgetting just how just how injured they were for so much of the
Man games
season.
lost. Very useful stat.
Yeah.
I think they were what, sixth, seventh, something like that. Among teams with playoff aspirations, that's not pretty.
Yeah, and when Dursey and Sergachev play together, it's tough, but playing Marino and Sergachev together is your top pair. I don't see Simishev and Dursey as your answer in the second pair, though, either. You need
No,
somebody else
no,
there.
no. I love Sean Dursey. I think he's a great player. I think he's fantastic. I think the Leafs gave up on him way too early for not enough, and then the Kings gave up on him for also not enough. What did the Kings even get back for Sean Dursey?
Wasn't he? Am I remembering correctly that he was like just like a pick?
Sean Dursey was traded to them for a second round pick.
Yeah, that was what I was. Because
You
same
tell me
thing with
Sean Jersey isn't worth a first?
right now, yeah, and I think LA gave up on him too early because of
He
I think
was
they
already a stud.
yeah,
This
they
was on my birthday in 2023.
you like I think you forget you forget how boom or bust this guy looked in LA. And I think they gave up on him too early because of his red flags. And I think they would obviously remedy that in retrospect. They chose Mikey Anderson, in my opinion, kind of
Okay,
like
okay. 38 points in 72 games while playing over 22 minutes a night as a 23-year-old who skates fantastically and has high hockey IQ. Tell me why that is ever only worth a second round pick.
no, I won't. I think you're right.
Yeah, it's just it's insane to me. And like the guy has won an OHL title. Like he I've listened to him on podcasts. Like I've heard his teammates talk about him. Like he is very much loved as well. Like this is a pretty cool guy. And not just because he's the same age as me. So I feel like I relate to a lot of things. But I digress. I gotta stop saying that I digress. I never digress. I don't even know what it means.
You don't,
I,
it
I know
just
what it means. I
okay.
hate using it. I don't like when other people say it, and I heard it a couple times last week, and God, I'm really over it because I heard how it sounds when other people say it, and now I can't stop saying it. It's almost
Few
as bad as
teams.
what was that? What was that thing you said? There was a word you were using. Oh yeah, pantomime. Yeah, yeah. That was my funniest Aiden thing of the year.
I
That's
need
easy.
to figure out like if there's a word that I've been meaning to say and been using that in its stead. Um, if we don't move on though, we're just gonna keep digging. So I do want to circle back and give a couple mm, more shout outs for a few teams. First of all, it's back to back PWHL championships for the Minnesota Frost. PWHL is expanding next year. We know that. Um, Last season, Minnesota and Taylor Heisey, who was the playoff MVP, ended up beating PWHL Boston in the final. This season, it was a really, really impressive Ottawa Charge year. They made the push to the final in the end, first time they'd made the playoffs. But at the end of the day, Minnesota wins their second straight. So big congratulations to them. 3-1 was the series over Ottawa. And we have Calder Cup playoffs. If you are a fan of the Carolina Hurricanes, chances are you're watching the Stanley Cup playoffs. Likewise, Dallas. But both of their teams have made their way into the conference finals of the AHL playoffs. The Charlotte Checkers playing against the Laval Rocket. That's Montreal's AHL team. But the reason I'm bringing this up mainly is because the Texas Stars play
Rocket.
the. Um, Say that again.
You can't say Yona instead of Jonah, but then say Rocket instead of Laval Rocket.
Rocket. Okay. Um, Reason I'm bringing it up mainly is to shout out to our lower mainland based people that the
Huh.
atmosphere in those Abbotsford Canucks playoff games is electric. Like it's very cool, and very much worth your time if you can get out there for a conference finals game or hopefully a Calder Cup finals game in June.
That would be super cool. I would totally go to that. I hate driving out to Abbotsford, but that would be interesting. I definitely think about that. I mean, because they'll get a nice weekend slot too, won't they?
I think there was I was looking and there's one game tomorrow because it's a best of seven and the way they do it, I think Abbotsford as the home team is going to end up getting games one and two, but then they go two, three, two. So it's games one, two, six, seven would be in Abbotsford. So I think it goes Thursday, Saturday, and then we won't know for a bit because there would need to be results of three games in Texas before another potential game six and seven in Abbotsford.
Well, Aiden, I mean, these aren't the only teams vying for championships right now. I would love to talk about the Memorial Cup right now. We've seen a lot of exciting young players take leaps forward, and other teams disappoint. Who are you loving right now, and where are things going?
Every year people like to say that the QMJHL is the weakest of the three Canadian junior leagues. And you know what? Honestly, a lot of times I don't think they're wrong, but the QMJHL has produced a lot of Memorial Cup champions. I think the last five consecutive, um, which so massive credit to the QMJHL for producing those winners and producing the number of good players. They're going to have Caleb Denwye near the top of the draft this year. But unfortunately, I say that because this Memorial Cup has taken a swing in the other direction. And it's not that Rimouski and Moncton aren't playing good hockey, but London and Medicine Hat are just getting the results in these games. The Knights won in overtime over Moncton thanks to a Sam O'Reilly goal. Casper Haltonen's played really well. Ryder Ritchie for the Medicine Hat Tigers. I don't want to I don't want to be mean, honestly, but I never saw this guy play a WHL game where I wasn't like, you're better than that. And every single time I watched him play, which was at least like 5 or 6 times in person in the last 2.5 years, I was left underwhelmed. Oh my God. When the moment means the most, Richie's playing unbelievably well. So massive shout out for him. He was a high prospect and has been really, really good for Medicine Hat, as has goaltender Harrison Menigan as well. Medicine Hat and London know they'll finish first and second. Rimouski and Moncton play tonight. The winner of that game will play London in the semis, and then the winner of that plays Medicine Hat in the final. That is Saturday and Sunday. So if you're not busy this weekend, I would highly recommend Memorial Cup action. I believe TSN has been showing the whole thing. 4 goals and 5 points for Ryder Ritchie in 3 games so far.
Gavin McKenna, is his march to the Memorial Cup final, if he wins, this one of the most dominant junior seasons that we've seen?
Well, and yes, already, but the fact that it's not even his draft year makes it like crazier,
I
right?
know. I know.
Already, yes, but this is just a preamble for next year. And for hopefully the Medicine Hat Tigers continuing to stay competitive. Sam Bennett has iced the series into the empty net. So Florida 5, Carolina 3 is where game 5 stands late in the third. And the Florida Panthers are your first Stanley Cup finalist. Tomorrow night, Edmonton will have a chance to become
Aiden,
the
actually, there's
second.
one more very important Memorial Cup thing I wanted to touch on.
Yeah, what you want to say?
Moncton Wildcats, their head coach, Taylor McDougall, I mean, coached them to a fantastic season. And um, on Monday, they were about to hit the ice. This is as per TSN, and I've seen it a little bit on social media, but I just had to go to them to get a few details. But um, sorry, not head coach. He's their general manager. His father-in-law passed away of a sudden heart attack. And he's been quite affected by it, as anyone would. I empathize with him for the loss of a loved one, and I hope, as the hockey world usually does, they can rally around the guy, give him the love he needs, because I can't imagine going through a loss like that, especially at a time like this. So, my condolences to him and his family.
World Championships next, James? Because we
Yeah,
had some crazy stuff
championship
here.
next. Let's talk Denmark of all things
Okay, let's
before we go anywhere else. Aiden, I know you're fascinated with the storyline of this Danish team. What can you tell me about how the hell they made anything like this happen?
I love this tournament when this happens. It's so much fun. And Canada lost in the quarterfinals, which is like this is the happiest I'll ever be about that result in a hockey tournament because Denmark, like, they started this tournament and it's not that they were playing bad, it's just that they started with a run of some really hard games in a row. They had to first play the States. They lost 5-0. They then lost 5-2 to Switzerland, and then they lost 7-2 to Czechia. So they're in a position, having lost their first 3 games, where finishing top 4 in their group and achieving getting to the quarterfinal does not look likely, especially when they're looking at Germany, who was playing really, really well at the start of this group ahead of them. But they beat Kazakhstan 5-1. They get a 8-2 win over Hungary. 6-3 win over Norway, and then the big game was beating Germany 2-1 in a shootout to get to the quarterfinals where they had to play Canada. And unfortunately, James, there's a couple things that happened to Canada here. The first one is a little bit of complacency crept in, I think. Like the drive to finish some of those chances, and it almost looked like a team that didn't need to put the puck in the net. And unfortunately, that is just very simply not a recipe for success. Um, Jordan Binnington was solid in the tournament. The first goal was not his fault. The Nikolai Ehlers scored on him. But talking specifically about this Canada Denmark game, Sanheim opens the scoring, Ehlers ties it, and then it was a goal from Nick Olesen right at the end to make it 2-1 Denmark with 49 seconds to go. The MVP of this game was Frederick Dekau. He's a 24-year-old goaltender from Denmark, one of the rare right shot goaltenders. He was an NHL draft pick 2019 by Montreal, but never broke into North American hockey. He's had a long list of European teams and currently plays in the SHL, but
Not great stats.
no, but man, he stood on his head, and he's a Danish hero for how he helped them pass Canada, truly. Um, Denmark, though, was so close to not even being the most compelling story of this tournament
You
because,
have a good point. The I found the Swiss really fascinating too.
yeah, Switzerland for me, and Switzerland always, man, shows up in this tournament. I love it.
Yeah,
Like they lost to Czechia in their first game in overtime, but rattled off six straight wins to win the group, including 3-0 over the Americans. Um, and then they end up with an easy quarterfinal semifinal. It's Austria, and I say easy. They played Denmark. They ended up beating them 7-0, but obviously not easy when you look at what happened to Canada. Um, and then just an amazing final. Like it's a 1-0 hockey game, but it was exciting between Switzerland and the States. Leonardo Giannoni, the goaltender for Switzerland, is at this tournament every year. Like he is just an absolute workhorse for this Swiss team. He's their goal. Like this is his third silver medal in the Worlds, which just hurts my heart.
that's
Um,
crazy.
Credit where credit is due. I think it was like a 94-year drought, World Championships that the
Yeah.
Americans broke. Um, and the end of this tournament exemplified what I've been saying about it the whole time, that you're going to see superstar talent in this tournament to a level that you don't often see because it's an Olympic year. Tage Thompson's one of those players playing for a spot in Milan, and I think has earned it, especially with how good he was in this tournament. He scores the tournament winner 202 in overtime. Broke my heart, breaks Swiss hearts, but good for the US, good for Thompson. Um, and Leonardo Giannoni, tournament MVP. Massive, massive credit to him. The Swiss goalie ends up not just the obviously the best goaltender, but tournament MVP as well.
Couple shoutouts from me too. Those American boys, they brought out Johnny Gaudreau, number 13 US jersey, when they were all taking their team picture at the end with their medals, and it's something you love to see. Johnny, always loved, never forgotten. Next up, I really, really want to give credit to one of my favorite things about the World Championship every year. I absolutely love when a guy gets eliminated from NHL playoffs in the second round, and 36 hours later, he's playing somewhere in Europe for his team.
Me too.
William Nylander, Nikolai Ehlers among those this year. Love to see it. Don't care if you win. I just love that you did not want to stop playing hockey. They had to drag you off and tell you there's nowhere else you're allowed to play other than practice until September.
And
So,
there's an element to me where like huge props for going and again fighting for your country, right? Like those especially when you're a superstar. Like if you're playing into the second round of the NHL playoffs, and your country will still accept you onto that team. 10 times out of 10, you're a superstar compared to the rest of that team because why else would they take you, right? And so I just think it is so uplifting to the rest of that roster when they're hearing that Nikolai Ehlers or William Nylander, despite the fact that they just played 4 weeks and 14 games deep into their playoff run, are getting on the plane and they're going to come help this group of Swedes or this group of Danes do as well as they can. I love it.
love it. All right, well, Aiden, let's take this away from the ice. Let's talk movies, let's talk TV shows. Feels like a much neglected segment for us because I have not been watching a lot of movies, and I'm a huge movie guy. But Aiden, I'm going to take the lead here. I'll let you go after me because I know you have positive things to say. I'm not sure about what, but Dude, I am so bored of Seth Rogen.
Oh, dude. Okay.
Like, okay, I love a good comedy. I love a stupid comedy. But, and you know what? I love the Hollywood storylines. Entourage is one of my favorite shows I've ever watched. But Apple TV's one of their last big shows they did is called The Studio. It's written by Seth Rogen and Evan, I can't remember his last name, that did Superbad and all of the
Yeah.
other things. That's like his main writing partner. They hadn't worked together in a little bit, but
Yeah, it's Evan Goldberg. Yeah.
that's right, Evan Goldberg. Notably in Superbad, Jonah Hill and Michael Cera's characters are named Seth and Evan.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a cool little Easter egg for you if you somehow didn't know that. If you don't know that, we're probably not friends. Uh, um, dude, it's like they with this show, The Studio, it's about Seth Rogen being a like big shot studio exec who was just promoted to head of this fictional one called Continental. And he's super into being a film nerd and making movies, and he like considers himself an artist, and he like doesn't enjoy the business side of it, and he wants to be super involved. And the whole the whole premise of the show is him going, "Oh, I don't want to be annoying. I want them to like me. Oh no, I'm being annoying." Ah, that's the whole show. Yes, there are some really funny moments where um Dave Franco and Anthony Mackie are doing a Martin Scorsese movie called Alphabet City, and it's super funny, and they do like they do a mock trailer for like a made up Scorsese movie. And there's a bunch of like Nick Stoller stuff, and Zoe Kravitz is really big in it, and she has some cool stuff, and I love Zoe Kravitz, and there are really cool parts of it, but it's like they took everything that was cool about Entourage and they took it away from you, put it in a health food shake, spat it back out at you, and then said, "Well, you're not allowed to laugh." But then they're like, "Well, you can laugh when we're laughing and being silly." Dude, like, do something else. Like, do anything else. I've seen Seth Rogen be mildly versatile. He doesn't need to be that. You can be funny, but you don't have to just go, "Ah." I'm over it. I'm really done with it. And I love comedy, and I'm a big defender of comedy. This was not it. This was not good enough. Go back to the drawing board. Give me something better.
Have you seen The Boys?
Yeah,
Okay,
obviously.
I like The Boys a lot, and Seth Rogen has been a huge part of producing that show. So I'll give Seth Rogen his flowers on his past work being that. As far as Seth Rogen acting in things, James, it's been like 10 years. Like, I know it doesn't feel like 10 years, and I know you're probably going to disagree with me because of your affinity for comedy and stupid comedy. But by my estimation, it has been 10 years since Seth Rogen acted in a significant role in something good. Um, so if this is like your wake up call to that, I'm
No, it's not my wake up call, but Long Shot in 2019 was a good comedy.
long shot in 2019. Okay. When I'm over, we can watch that. I haven't seen that.
Yeah. It's his this girl he's into that he's also an assistant for is like also a politician in a presidential race, and it gets really messy.
Okay.
Yeah, I enjoy chaos. It's quite
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can totally agree with you there, man. Like 2014, the dude did Neighbors and The Interview, and then 2013 it was This Is the End. Like, there's some crazy comedy there.
The political satire in the interview makes it one of the more underrated comedy movies of the 2010s. It is very clever for how
Oh,
stupid it is.
2015 Christmas movie with Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Anthony Mackie the night before. One of my
Yeah.
favorite Christmas movies, especially Christmas comedies.
That was kind of
Fantastic.
the that was kind of the last one I was looking at. Like, okay,
Yeah.
I remember him being good in that, or being him in that, being him in a good movie.
Yeah, since then your track record is Sausage Party, The Studio, Platonic, Neighbors 2, Sorority Rising, An American Pickle, where an old he's an old gold prospector who wakes up in modern day, And I didn't watch Pam and Tommy. Apparently, he plays a really good jerk in Pam and Tommy. Like he's the guy who leaked the Pamela Anderson and Tommy Lee sex tape in that one.
Hmm.
And I liked him in The Disaster Artist, but that's Franco Brothers. They're both funny.
That was a good
Also,
movie.
did you know Sausage Party has a sequel TV series called Sausage Party Foodtopia? You didn't need to know that.
No, and I think I did in my ever like I have a massive, and James has probably heard me complain about this because it takes me like 10 minutes of talking about movies or TV shows for me to bring up how much I hate things being like spun off and remade all the time. Um but I did notice that, James, because it was like I remember thinking, "Oh my God, are they seriously making a Sausage Party spinoff? Is that where we are with this slop?"
But to end my smack talking about Seth Rogen, if you want to watch a fantastic movie with him in it, watch 50-50 with Joe Gordon-Levitt. If you want to feel something, if you want to laugh, that is the movie. It's a comedy drama, and you're gonna laugh and you're gonna cry. So yeah, moving on. Aiden, what'd you watch? What's new for you?
Okay, this is the antithesis of
Antithesis.
yeah, of a comedy.
Antithesis. You do not need to use that word. That is crazy.
Why?
Name one person you know who has ever conversationally said antithesis.
That's like a hard thing to put me on the spot for.
Yeah. But it's reasonable, Aiden. You don't need to use that word. I'm adding that to the jar.
Okay, fine.
That's going in the jar.
It was for me to say that this is the opposite of a comedy didn't feel like enough because there is no like I really don't think there's anything here that brightens your heart. Like it is just grim. Have you seen the miniseries Chernobyl, James?
I have not. I've had it rave
Oh.
recommended to me by one of the people with the best taste in movies and TV that I have ever worked with. Curtis Doring, my former colleague at City News. Him and I have very similar tastes, and he always told me I need to watch Chernobyl.
It's hard to compare because I'm comparing it to a bunch of like seasons long shows like, but it might be my favorite TV show ever. And
Wow.
yeah, it is excellent. Like, and it's a bunch of things that I, as like James talks about him being a nerd, I am too, and for different things. And world history is one of them
We
for
have
me.
different
So
things. You mean you haven't opened 65 Pokemon card packs in the past 3 days?
there's some crossover. It's like a Venn diagram.
Okay.
um, but it really scratched like my historical and not fiction, just my affinity for historically accurate stories. And especially ones of such like, such scale and impact like this. If you don't know what the Chernobyl nuclear plant disaster was, it's a very real thing that happened in April 1986, where one of their nuclear power plants in the USSR exploded in at the time again was the Soviet Union. It is now Ukraine. For now, hopefully it remains that way. Um, but the show, like James, you're thinking that the main part of this show would be the disaster, right? Which it is, but it is through the eyes of people dealing with it after the fact more than anything else. And that added so much value to this as a story. Like yeah, I'm all over it. Again, it's not going to make you feel good. It's grim, it's depressing, but I think that the best of acting, the best of writing, and the best of cinematography often comes out when you're dealing with some grim topics and storylines, and all those things came out incredibly in this. So 10 out of 10 for Chernobyl. Or James doesn't like 10 out of 10. 95 out of 100 for Chernobyl.
Thank you for rating properly.
Yeah.
Thank you. Tens do not exist.
Yeah.
There is no such thing as a 10. 10 is something we strive for, yet we cannot ever reach. You roll the ball up the hill so you can get to the top of the hill. Okay, Aiden, last week you said you may have a piece of trivia for me. Is that still the case?
You asked me at the top of the episode if I did, and I made reference to the fact that I don't. That remains the case, but the topic I was talking about, or do you have one? Because you could always throw one at me.
No, but I got a game for you, and it's a point system that's going to cash in a month and a few days. This is a guessing game, a very, very honestly way too soon guessing game. But I was thinking about this earlier today because I didn't really feel like thinking of it, any trivia. You know, Aiden, we're gonna have a lot of talk about free agents over the next little while. So I think we need to make way too early predictions. Now, for every mainline free agent, I'm gonna have you guess a team that they will sign with. Now, they are nullified if they re-sign with their current team. Then they don't matter. That's out of the point system. We're gonna do 10 players. You have to make a guess. For every single one you get right, you get a point. I don't know what those points are going to be cashed in on. Could be embarrassing me some way, somehow, because this is a very hard game. This is a stupidly hard thing to do. But I digress. Again, saying that. Okay, free agent number one. Aiden, where does Mitch Marner sign?
I've been saying and will reaffirm that I think Marner goes to Chicago.
Chicago. All right. We need no explanation why. That's not what this game's all about. Matt Duchene.
So, should I say if I think they're going to stay with their
If they
team?
re-sign with their current team, it does not count. They are completely nullified. It is no longer out of that many points.
Because I could see Duchesne staying in Dallas at a massive discount because
Oh, he's more of a discount than the 3 million this point per game player is already making.
was it 3 last year? Oh my God.
Making
Well,
3.
I guess continued discount in that case.
Yeah.
Because his numbers could fetch him a lot more on that market. And if that's the case, honestly, James, I could see the desperate husk of this Vancouver Canucks team throwing a lot of money at him. So I'm going to say Vancouver for Matt Duchene.
I love Matt Duchene, and I think he would really enjoy being here, to be honest. But he does love the States, so I won't say too much more about that. He's a country boy. That's who he is. The pride of Halliburton, Ontario, loves being a Southern guy. He's very religious. He likes that down there. Next up, John Tavares.
Again, that's another one that my gut is saying he's gonna stay. It's hard because there's a lot of teams around that area. Like if Ottawa lost Claude Giroux, that
Right.
would be perfect. Montreal even might really benefit from somebody like Tavares coming in to aid and abet the young guys. But there's no way that he goes there whatsoever. I'm gonna. I think Utah throws money at him.
John Tavares.
Yeah,
Very cool. I like
I
that because I've been saying they want that veteran.
yeah.
I like it. I like it a lot. That's very cool, Aiden. Next up, Mikhail Granlund, a guy who has really, really shown everyone what he's got this season. One of the more dangerous players on the ice over the past month and a half. Where is he going to sign?
He seems like the kind of guy that New Jersey's going to bring in, fill one of those spots. Like the center ice position has been tormented by injuries. I think Jersey's going to like the appeal of Granlund and his versatility. He can play wing, can play power play, he can play center, whatever you need.
Clocking in on the New Jersey Devils. Very interesting. Nikolai Ehlers.
I think Toronto's going to look at Ehlers as a Walmart version of Mitch Marner.
So you're
And
telling me we can find Ehlers at Walmart?
can we? Um, Yeah, James, there's something about Toronto that tells me they're not going to learn and they're not going to make huge changes. They're just going to continue to make tweaks. And one of those tweaks will be Marner out, Ehlers in, and they'll probably save 4 million bucks on the cap in the process.
There's something to be said for that, for sure. Next up, an interesting one to me. Ryan Donato.
Yeah, Donato had a ton of success in Chicago, in that role behind Bedard. But
Mhm.
it's interesting because you almost want to ask, like, okay, are you are are you going to try and do that again, or is it time for you to try and make an impact on a playoff team? Um, it's hard because Minnesota traded this guy away for a third round pick.
Yeah.
But my gut is telling me that, like, well, he would be a great fit on the Wild. Like there is so many question
Ooh,
marks around Marco Rossi right now. There's a lot of speculation that he's going to end up signing an offer sheet. There's a lot of speculation that you're not going to see the Minnesota Wild match that. Now, the thing about Donato is like this was an outlier season. This isn't a player who like was on the precipice of this for years and then just broke out with 30 goals. Like
right.
he was like a third line center at best until this season. So I think it's this is the one that's hardest to predict because this is the one where I think one team could just randomly throw like $5.5 million a year at him. And it's hard to tell which one. I think he fits well in Minnesota because of the question marks around their center ice position, though.
Patrick Kane.
Oh, I want to say Buffalo because I want Buffalo to be at the point where they're like actually ready for him, but they're not. um, because the Patrick Kane going home storyline would be cool. Um, Again, I know he was just in Detroit. Detroit does fit. I could see I could see Patrick Kane going to the Blues. He I think he's the kind of player that would greatly benefit from playing on a line with Pavel Buchnevich because Buchnevich is one of the best play driving wingers in the league. And
Hmm.
Kane having that on his opposite side will give him a lot of flexibility to just kind of do his thing.
Fun. I like it. Next up, Brock Nelson.
I'm trying to picture him in a jersey and wait for it to be like, yeah, that's the one. Brock Nelson seems like the kind of guy that it's going to end up being Carolina is going to look at him as like a an upgrade on a Jordan Staal. And I know that like I don't want to take anything away from Jordan Staal, but when I say upgrade on Jordan Staal, I mean like Jordan Stahl's 36 years old. So the expectation that he continues at this level is not as prevalent as for a Brock Nelson who's 3 years younger, right? Like realistically, I think they look at him as a longer term Jordan Stahl as they continue to develop some of those younger guys.
Booking it into Carolina. All right. Next up, Brad Marchand.
Oh, it's another hard one. Would I be crazy to say Colorado?
No, I don't think that's too crazy.
I the way he's played in Florida, like I could see him going to Florida, but I think riding shotgun with McKinnon would also be a dream.
Totally. And I mean, you could see Jonathan Drouin not re-signing with the Avs.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's something that makes sense is shifting that up a bit for sure. Next up, one of the most talked about ones, Sam Bennett.
That's hard because I think if Florida wins the Stanley Cup this year, like how do you let him walk?
How did they let Brandon Montour walk?
I know. Yeah. It's hard.
You're trying so hard not to say Toronto right now.
Yeah, I am. I am because it stands to reason, right? It does. I will say Toronto. Yeah, I'll
Okay.
say Toronto.
Booking in the Leafs, Aiden, big Leafs supporter. Claude Giroux.
Again, another guy that I'm looking at and saying, "Oh yeah, staying where you are, I guess." If he doesn't, why not Calgary?
The I'm going to say why not because he has rejected playing in the Western Conference before.
Okay, okay,
So I'll give you a mulligan on that one, and you can pick an Eastern team.
yeah. And the Calgary, I've been kind of thinking Calgary's gonna go and grab one of these guys, and the fit there seems better.
Well, and
Um,
also Giroux at the end, if he's gonna stay with a team that isn't going to win a cup, why wouldn't he stay with his hometown Ottawa Senators that he loves? He's never won a cup. He's got to go somewhere where he would have a chance if he's gonna leave there.
yeah, yeah, for sure. He was a Panther. I could see him going
Okay,
back to Florida.
I like it. I like it a lot. Brock Besser.
I'm My first thought was Toronto. I realized I said that with Ehlers. So I'm gonna say Minnesota as well. It's a
Okay.
team that is in a spot where they know they're too good to rely on getting and developing young players, and they aren't good enough to win a Stanley Cup right now. So I think Minnesota goes and buys the hometown boy.
Down to the final three. Aaron Ekblad.
Nashville just made a commitment to trying, and this is the next piece of them trying. Right shot defenseman Aaron Ekblad to Nashville.
I like it. Vladislav Gavrikov, for my money, the best defenseman on the market.
Yeah, he had a tough year. Um, the way Dmitry Orlov played in this Eastern Conference final, the fact he's 33 years old, I don't think Orlov's coming back to Carolina, so I think they're going to replace him with Gavrikov.
Carolina, booking them in again. Last one on our list, Trent Frederick.
Yeah, this one hasn't worked out for Edmonton superbly well. I'm getting a feeling he's the kind of guy that Seattle's going to look at and say, all right, these
I like
centermen,
that fit.
yeah, these centermen we have, just go and show them how everything go and show him how everything after the whistle is done. How do you carry yourself in those situations? Because I think Frederick's kind of the perfect balance of like being an annoying little prick and still like not crossing the line into problematic behavior.
Totally. Well, that was 15 players, Aiden. I said I was going to give you 10, but I realized about halfway through that there's way more to talk about. So I kept her going. We'll update you guys on this one way down the line. This is just setting up something fun for the summer when we're starting to run out of things to talk about. So yeah, unless Aiden has anything else to add, I want to thank all of you guys for listening. It's been a ton of fun to hop back on, and you know what? Not just hop back on, but to get 2 episodes out in 2 weeks on routine time. We appreciate your guys' patience. You know what? I love doing this, so I will catch you guys in the next one. Thank you very much. Let's roll it out, outro.